Every year, something happens that we didn't see coming. Every year we say, this is the best year. How do we do better next year? I like to break records. Let's keep it rolling.
Another year has passed, which means another chaotic, electrifying, and record-breaking chapter in the books for the UFC.
Financially, it goes to another level. Creatively, I think it goes to another level.
The amount of new champions we have had this year, the way the fights have played out.
New stars, some of the biggest events of all time.
The pay-per-views every month have been sensational.
All these events in total have allowed for the UFC to show once again why they set the standard.
As 2024 comes to a close and we look ahead to a new year, unforgettable moments that defined this one.
I love this shit.
This year has had it all. Everything from the entertaining talk
I will show you who you are. I can't wait. I can't wait.
to iconic finishes.
He just knocks them dead.
And legendary runs that will echo through the sport's history.
From when UFC started to now, it's sick, right?
If you go to 1993 to 2024 and watch it, it's completely different.
Life moves fast, so before we shift gears, let's celebrate some of the best memories the sport has given us this year. We've broken it down into 8 categories, featuring the top 3 in each, voted on by some of you guys as part of this growing community that adds fuel to the fire for making these videos. And here's to all the badass fighters who make this sport what it is, the madness, the glory, and epic highlights that keep us coming back for more.
People always ask me what I do. I sell holy shit moments for a living. Movie shit.
Let's end the year with a bang, shall we?
First up, Breakout Fighter of the Year. Number 3, Carlos Prates. It's nice to see Carlos Prates has gotten some well-deserved love for his unbelievable first year in the UFC. A fighter who mixes undeniable confidence and charisma with a real violent streak in the cage.
This is one that has turned heads in terms of a welterweight prospect on his way up.
4 knockouts and 4 performance bonuses in 2024 were enough to put his name on many of our radars, and it's easy to see why.
Carlos Prates, a name to keep an eye on in the 170-pound division.
Number 2, Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez went 3-0 over a trio of featherweight fan favorites in 2024, singling himself out as one of the standout new contenders in the sport, period. Lopez's fighting style is what gets him his place on this list, though. This is a truly high-level competitor, and with him now ranked as the number 3 featherweight in the world, he's showing all the signs that he's ready to step up and fight for a title in 2025.
He was screaming at me, "Give me my title shot. I get the title shot now." Yeah, he was very angry tonight. This wasn't the usual happy-go-lucky, smiling Diego Lopez. He was screaming at me.
Number 1, Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria was known to hardcores for years before he finally reached featherweight gold. But to say that his stock has gone through the roof in 2024 would be putting it lightly. He didn't just win the belt and beat 2 divisional all-timers in the process, he finished both of them. And that's the type of form that legends are made of.
UFC featherweight champion, this guy walked the walk, talked the talk, and got it done. Let us give Ilia Topuria his roses. I can't even wrap my head around that type of confidence. You've got a superstar on your hands.
Comeback of the year. Number 3, Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez 2. Brian Ortega is the type of fighter who rose into title contention on the back of his insane ability to pull victory from the jaws of defeat. And though he hasn't had it all his way in recent years, seeing him somehow pull off the comeback against Yair Rodriguez was vintage T-City.
Talk about things stacked against me. Bruce was introducing me, and then I jumped up, and when I landed, I rolled my ankle, and I was like, oh shoot. Well, right off the bat, I started off, and I got clipped, and then I paid the price for not being in the zone and focused on what I was supposed to do, and then adrenaline kicked in, and I was like, all right, there we go.
This dude is a true warrior at heart, and there's an argument that a finish over a guy like El Pantera is the best result on his resume. Number 2, Renato Moicano versus Jalen Turner. This fight perfectly showcased the unpredictable nature of MMA. Jalen Turner really managed to make a mess of things when he tried to pull off a walk-off KO against Renato Moicano, only to be told that the fight wasn't over.
Joke is on him. I'm not gonna give up. Even if you drop me, I will keep pushing, I will keep trying the takedowns, I will try to kill you because, like I say, I cannot afford to lose.
Full credit must be given to Moicano for clawing his way back and eventually getting the TKO win. But man, Jalen really dropped the ball on this one. Number 1, Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. Yuri Prochazka is a walking, talking X-Factor. His fighting style would be ripped to shreds by any MMA coach, and yet it has served him pretty well. But in there with Alexander Rakic, it seemed like Yuri was on his way to a brutal defeat. His defense was non-existent, and Rakic was truly finding himself in a solid flow. But in classic Yuri fashion, he found his momentum in the second round, turning the tide with a shockingly good comeback TKO.
All my career, I'm trying to connect that violence with the mastery, with the technique, with the control, with the peace in the fight. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to catch a lot of punches to start to be more in the game. And I had to prove that I am who I am.
Best Talker of the Year. Number 3, Ilia Topuria.
Let's express it's over, my friend. Over. And no one's gonna save you once that case gonna be closed, my friend.
Ilia Topuria might rub some fans the wrong way, but the man has crafted himself into a character and a formidable presence atop the featherweight ranks. English isn't even his second language, and he still brings tons of personality to the table.
You already know what's gonna happen. You just came ready for the retirement. I'm gonna take your head off. I'm gonna show you levels.
La estrategia que voy a traer en la pelea, él no va a ser capaz de resolverlo.
No soy el trapo ni de Jair, no soy ni el paquete de Brian Ortega, no soy ni la nariz torcida de Max Holloway, soy Ilia Topuria y lo voy a machacar en el primer asalto de una forma espectacular y al que le quepa la mínima duda que se joda.
There is no way I'm not gonna knock him out. I recommend him to use a Hamlet. He's gonna need it.
Ilia had an insanely good 2024, and chances are his star power will only continue to grow next year. Number 2, Renato Moicano. Renato Moicano's rise into his role as one of the biggest heels in the sport has been a joy to behold, and the fact that he was voted as number 2 says it all.
If you didn't bet in me, you are fucking retarded, bro. The level of disrespect of people thinking that I will lose to a motherfucker like Jalen Turner.
Patrick Pimbless, easy money. Don Hooker, easy money. Don't come up with fights.
Money Moicano is here to stay, and his rise into the lightweight top 10 has been one of the most unexpected success stories of the year. Number 1, Dricus du Plessis. The ultra-confident Dricus du Plessis was the villain no one really saw coming this year.
Are you anticipating going through another fight like that where it could get pretty nasty in the lead-up?
I don't know. I mean, does he want to cry again?
Yeah, I saw Darren Till had some advice for Izzy for the fight. Your reaction to that?
I don't even know why we started discussing this. I mean, the man's in a downward spiral, and what I saw in terms of how easy it would be to beat me, why didn't he do it?
When did I become the underdog?
It's very...
Nobody said anything about dogs, bro. Chill out. Are you taking the servants with you when you're going back?
You don't know my story. Look, I'm a human being. I am a man. I can cry and whoop your ass at the same time.
Next up, Performance of the Year. Number 3, Bilal Muhammad against Leon Edwards. The term force of nature gets thrown around a lot in combat sports, but Bilal Muhammad fits the description. Seeing Bilal break the welterweight champion Leon Edwards over 5 rounds was proof that a new era was beginning at 170 pounds. He was simply too much for Leon in every area of the fight.
We just dominated the champion. We made it look easy. And we did it better than Kobe did, better than Usman did.
Bilal Muhammad told us all this week that he would make this fight look easy. Granted, it wasn't easy when you're that bloody, but he dominated the fight over long periods of time.
Number 2, Alex Pereira against Yuri Prochazka. Poatan could have been considered on the back of any of the 3 performances he turned in this year. But his destruction of Yuri Prochazka in their UFC 303 rematch was just a different level of clean. Yuri doesn't exactly bring the best defense to the table. And in there with a guy like Pereira, that can be a death sentence. After stunning Yuri badly in round 1, Alex closed the show with a huge head kick finish to open round 2. Number 1, Max Holloway against Justin Gaethje. According to the votes, this was the top pick by far, and it's not wrong to call Max Holloway's stunning UFC 300 victory over Justin Gaethje the standout performance of the year. Everything about this win was amazing. From the striking clinic he put on the highlight for the first 24 minutes and 59 seconds to the way he closed the show with no time to spare.
First of all, he didn't just knock out Justin Gaethje, he thoroughly beat him, even if that had never happened.
Submission of the year. Number 3, Dricus du Plessis against Israel Adesanya. Coming in with the bronze medal is the absolute tank Dricus du Plessis. Even though Israel Adesanya is mostly known for his striking expertise, taking him down and submitting him is not easy. In fact, he's never been submitted in his entire career. After a solid 3 rounds from both, DDP saw his opportunity in the championship rounds and proved his mettle by seeing it through to the finish. A nasty face crank that forced Adesanya to tap.
How many guys have gotten him down and not being able to do anything with it? As we went to the ground, he wasn't resisting at all. Got the back. As soon as I straightened him out, it was over.
Number 2, Islam Makhachev against Dustin Poirier. Islam Makhachev hasn't been forced to face too much adversity during his recent rise towards pound-for-pound greatness. But at UFC 302, Dustin Poirier offered a far greater challenge than many had anticipated. With only minutes to go in the fight, the champ dug deep and executed on a beautiful sequence that led to the Darce choke finish, defending his title with yet another finish of a huge name within the sport.
Just hitting that secondary, tertiary level of takedown that late in the fight when he's absolutely exhausted as well. Just
that ankle pick stuff. And then finishing off with that Darce choke, absolutely gorgeous.
Number 1, Khamzat Chimaev against Robert Whittaker. No surprises here. You don't just bust up the jaw of a living legend like Robert Whittaker and come away with the silver medal. This is easily up there on Performance of the Year too. In classic Boers fashion, Khamzat shot for a takedown on Whittaker like a madman in the early going. Then after a few minutes of suffocating pressure, took his back and squeezed the life out of him. What a way to validate yourself as a top contender in the middleweight division.
To whip Robert Whittaker? Come on, man, nobody's ever whipped Robert Whittaker.
Whittaker tapped very quickly. We've heard the rumors on broadcast just like you did. My gosh.
What he did tonight was the reason we all fell in love with him in the beginning.
Knockout of the year. Number 3, Shara Magomedov against Armen Petrosyan. We've seen some great spinning back fist KOs over the years, but what Shara Bullet did at UFC 308 took the technique to a totally different level. A double spinning back fist that left everyone in awe with its sheer technique and execution. The fact that this came in 3rd place tells you a lot about the quality on display this year, because in most years, this would be a very credible winner. Number 2, Ilia Topuria against Max Holloway. Max Holloway's chin has been the stuff of legend for years now, and the idea of anyone ever knocking him out seemed far-fetched right up until Ilia Topuria brought the hammer down and did exactly that.
I thought Ilia would win, but knocking Max out, I didn't see that as a possibility.
Every so often, there comes a guy and a fighter that disrupts what's the norm, what's going on, what's happening.
and that's Ilia Topuria.
Ilia's got a level of power that is truly unique within the featherweight mix. Power he has shown and might be showing again soon up at lightweight. Number 1. Max Holloway against Justin Gaethje. Even though the eventual demise of Max Holloway took the second spot, it's been pretty clear since April who would get the best KO of the year. This was by far the easiest winner of them all. Not only was Holloway's final second destruction of Justin Gaethje the best fight moment of the year, but it was one of the most insane things to ever have taken place in the UFC octagon. And we're not being hyperbolic by saying that.
That is either one of the best, not just fight finishes, but UFC moments in the entire organization's history, or it's the number one.
The fact that he did it this way, pointed to the center of the octagon, pointed to the floor, and said, let's throw down right here, and then sleeps Justin Gaethje.
That was the ultimate holy shit moment of all time. A career-defining moment for a guy who has already accomplished so many great things.
Fight of the year. Number 3, Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. While all the fights in this category were undeniably exceptional, there might be a few surprises to some. For this one, there's nothing like seeing a fan favorite overcome adversity and somehow pull off one of the most impressive wins of their career. And for Dan Hooker, despite being at a stylistic disadvantage on paper, he fought tooth and nail in this firefight against Mateusz Gamrot.
We built this one up all week, saying it would deliver. It certainly delivered.
It's one of those fights where you want to go, you know what? Nobody lost last night.
Number 2, Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree. We could watch Alex Pereira and Khalil Roundtree fight all day long. This battle of hard-nosed strikers was a true joy to behold. Despite taking on a boatload of damage, this was a star-making performance for Roundtree. But once Poatan found himself in that flow state in round 4, he was impossible to deny. And that finish? Insane work from this superstar champion.
It was much harder than they expected it to be. He was down 2 rounds going into the 4th.
Everybody knew it was going to be a badass fight. You can never measure heart. You don't know how that's going to go. Now you know.
Number 1, Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. There's nothing quite like seeing a seemingly unstoppable force confronted with some real problems to overcome. And like the first fight between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski, this time Dustin Poirier was the one to ask some very serious questions of the champ. And according to the voters, seeing his response was worthy of the Fight of the Year honors.
The expression says, a sport like this does not create character, it reveals characters. There's a lot of truth to it, guys.
All of the analysts were saying, Dustin's got to make this a dust-up. He's got to get this a little bit dirty, a little bit, get the dog out. Islam met him dog for dog in those moments.
And finally, Fighter of the Year. Number 3, Dricus du Plessis. The middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis was counted out by many during his rise as a one-dimensional slugger who was more about his brawn than his brains. But that label was officially shed in 2024 when Dricus managed to single himself out as the best fighter in the division. The Strickland fight was close, sure, but no one could argue with how he dealt with Israel Adesanya in the follow-up.
It's giving Dricus his flowers, finally. This is a guy who had to really work to impress us. He was overlooked all the way up to through his title run. I've never seen a fighter so good, but be so good at making it look so bad.
Dricus du Plessis is 8-0 in the UFC, and now he has left 3 former champions in his wake successively, right? Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, and now Israel Adesanya.
Number 2, Ilia Topuria. With a pair of finish victories over legends like Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski on his resume, some of you might be surprised that Ilia Topuria was not voted in for the top spot. But this was always going to spark a debate. If it were possible to award 2 first-place winners, Topuria's incredible wins this year, some of the most impressive in the sport, would certainly deserve it. His achievements this year were simply insane, and after those wins alone, Ilia Topuria has already cemented a run that will resonate for generations.
Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway are the two greatest featherweights of all time until Ilia Topuria came along. Ilia Topuria steps in, knocks out Volk, knocks out Max Holloway. That is your fighter of the year.
It's a surprise for a lot of people, but for me, I knew it. I said it and I did it.
Number 1, Alex Pereira. 2024 will forever be remembered as the Alex Pereira year. As Fighter of the Year, he stepped up whenever he was asked, saving multiple events while notching 3 title defenses, all by way of brutal finishes.
Pereira's a different cat, man. After he fought Khalil Roundtree, Mark Goddard came up to me and goes, "Mate, the sound it makes when he hits them is ungodly." He goes, "I've been doing this for 20 years. It's ungodly."
He broke Ronda Rousey's record, defended the title 3 times in a span of 175 days. He's headlined all of our biggest pay-per-views this year.
Poatan might not have had the type of pound-for-pound success that Topuria did, but he was the fighter who captured the imagination of the public, becoming a star in a division that had not been producing the goods in quite some time. Pereira is a more than worthy winner of the biggest award on our list. 2024 was a remarkable year for the UFC, marked by unforgettable fights, breakthrough performances, and the continued rise of new champions that have created a thrilling roller coaster ride for MMA fans worldwide. The bar is set pretty high for 2025, but given the current landscape with this set of talent, shining stars, and seasoned champions defending their titles, along with the potential for some of the biggest matchups in the sport's history, the UFC seems poised for another record-breaking year. And I can't wait to see how it all plays out.